Hey everyone out there in social media land, we are back. Apologize for the brief delay there. We were trying to get some things straight here technologically wise, and we've got it all under control now. So yes, indeed, we are here and ready to get started. Go ahead and get on the phone now. Without any further ado, text message, however you communicate, when you communicate. I don't care, stick your head out the front door and yell, hey, they on. Just let your neighbors know, your friends
Let them know.
Go ahead and tune in. If you're going to YouTube, you can find us there at Crown Kingdom Cultural Center. If you want to watch us on YouTube, some of you have your YouTube set up where you can actually cut your phone off and it's still playing in the background. You might be at work or something like that. You can do that. Or if you sit at your desk and you're not at work and you have time to actually view, you can go straight to Facebook, of course, to Finest Bush Jr.'s webpage, and you can watch the live broadcast as you are doing right now. So go ahead, when you get to YouTube, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on Facebook.
And share.
And share. Start sharing on Facebook. Leave some comments. We're going to throw some snowballs at y'all today because we know y'all still hot about the last episode we did. So by the time the snowball reaches you spiritually through the broadcast, it will have melted, because some of y'all want to know about these 5 basic needs for her and 5 basic needs for him. We kind of opened up a can of pork and beans on Sunday and found out it may have been the can of worms. I don't know.
Man, they got to where the bishop was going to the gas station everywhere. They were
well, what happened?
It went from growling to riff.
Some of y'all watching, what happened? You know how you like something happened at work and everybody's ooh. You're like, what happened? So just tell me what happened. So we went over the 5 basic needs. We started with the number 1.
Yeah, I started talking about sexual fulfillment. But now I did it in a way that I wanted the women to understand that they first needed to drop their rocks. Same thing I said to the men when I was talking about why men hurt women. Drop your rocks. It's hard to hear when your defenses are up. Now, we want to give you a moment to let everybody know that we're on, because we realize that we've been delayed. The devil is fighting. This is a message he does not want to hit the airwaves, because he knows today we're going to say some things that you probably will be able to agree with. And before I get started explaining what I was about to regarding sexual fulfillment being number 1 for the man, and we're not going to stay there. We're going through all 10 as brief as we possibly can, but we want you to comment. Now, we need you to comment. Go ahead and start sending in your questions. And I'll tell you what, Elgin, it would be good if they would let us know what their number 1 would be. I want to hear from the men. I want to hear from the women. Tell us what you think number 1 should be. What do you think or qualify as one of your deepest needs from a male perspective or from a female perspective? Because sometimes we do miss it. But let me also say this. It's important that we point out that when we're talking about deepest needs, we're talking about something that the psychologists have studied by way of counseling or consulting with the male and the female in all kinds of straits. They're dealing with marital relationships in dilemma. They're dealing with marital relationships in turmoil. They're dealing with marital relationships at peace, sane and sensible and rational and pleasant. They're dealing with it from a variety of perspectives, but they're trying to help us understand that there are some things from their assessment filters that allows them to feel good about making these 10 basic needs, not the only needs that men and women have, but they are 5 of the primary needs that both men and women have in relationships.
I think that's good to really pull out, because a lot of times we say, well, that's not a basic need that I have. But once again, these are psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors who have sat down and have created controlled environments through their trial, through their practice, and found out what have become, or what they have seen to be the most prominent basic needs that have come up most frequently. So just because we mentioned one, you said that's not one of mine, it's just one we're saying is one of the most prominent ones. So we'll just try to cover them all, but understand that there's no cookie cutter situation here, but there are some basic things that come up most frequently.
And these were thousands, tens of thousands of examinations examinations and observations and experiences and experiments over a span of 50 plus years. And so this is not a random study. This is a study that has actually been a part of our, marital relations and affairs for over 50 years. And we've got to really consider that when we talk about it. So the first one, Elgin, sexual fulfillment. So this is where I got a lot of, what do we call oppositional flack on Sunday? And I hope you all are talking about it, because we really need you to really jump in, because when I talked about sexual fulfillment, there were some things that I did not mention, because you'd never get a chance to talk about everything in one setting. But now it's important to know that regardless to how some of you think that it should not matter, this is actually a big deal for men. And even if your man does not acknowledge it to be so, they find people on the sideline to talk about this particular issue. Now, not all, but most do. So the truth is that even though some of us would like to think that it doesn't matter, it really does. Now, Elgin, there are some things that I want to talk about that the doctors did not give out, but Dr. Bush recommends through, when I heard these years ago, I'm going to ask you to do what I did. I was studious. I heard that the psychologists were saying that a man's first primary or basic need from a woman is sexual fulfillment. Now, to be honest with you, when I first heard this over 40 plus years ago, I wasn't really conscious or cognizant or aware of this being one of my primary needs either. I didn't see it as such. But the more I began to look at it, the more I got involved in relationship, and the more deeper I began to explore myself in the midst of my own relationship, here's what I discovered that the psychologist had to mean. There were 4 C's, and I hope you all will write this down with me, because this is so critical right now, and everything is going to overlap. Those of you who are single really need to pay close attention to this, because I'm getting ready to give you what I think is a clue or a very insightful look into why sexual fulfillment is a big deal with men. Now, God, would you please make the first observation that God has wired men to be passionately interested in sex. God has wired men to be passionately interested in sex. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't wire the woman to be the same, but it does mean that that is a primary demand or need for men, because he's wired that way.
So
now,
like a driving need.
It's a driving need. He has a deep yearning for that. Okay. Now, number one, what's important, it's been my experience that affectionate sex provides what I call 4 C's. It provides a husband with the 4 C's of stability, of temperance, of self-control. Number one, it establishes a man's connection to his woman. Nothing like sex establishes a man's connection to his woman. Number two, when it establishes his connection to his woman, it instills his confidence in himself. This is why Lemuel's mother said she will do him good and not evil all the days of his life, and he will have no need of spoil. In other words, she will carry his needs like a steward, because she understands what it releases him to do. First, it connects him to her. Second, it gives him confidence in himself. The third C, Elgin, is that it calms the man's passions by allowing him to temper and direct his thoughts on his priorities, so that he can focus on making sure the home has all the things that it needs. Now he is a better provider. He's a better procurer of grace, and he's a better, he's able to protect better when he's able to see clearer. You'd be amazed at how sex frees the man's mind up, is what I'm basically saying.
Right.
It frees him up to be at one with his faculty. So he's more rational, he's more sane, he's more focused, he's more conscious. And last but not least, when it calms his passions by allowing him to temper and direct his thoughts on his priorities. Lastly, it relaxes him now to communicate clearly and consciously with his wife.
So for number one, 5 deepest needs of a man, sexual fulfillment, and it provides for that man connection, confidence, it calms him, and communication.
Yes, yes. So I'll read it just like this. First, it establishes his connection to his woman. Second, it instills his confidence in himself. Third, it calms his passions, allowing him to temper and direct his thoughts on his priorities. And lastly, it relaxes the man to communicate clearly and consciously with his woman, which is ultimately what the woman wants. She wants communication. She needs, psychologist says she really needs communication. And we'll talk about that under the deepest needs of a woman. Number 2, what's number 2?
Number 2, recreational companionship.
Recreational. Now, if you read Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse number 9, it says, live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your fleeting life, which he has given you under the sun, all the days of vanity and futility. For this is your reward in life and in your work in which you have labored under the sun. Now, the reason why wisdom takes the time to admonish us regarding the importance of a man having a recreational companionship is because men desire a woman as a playmate. Now, he's really not talking about sport, Elgin. He's talking about a playmate, someone to play with him and enjoy their leisure time activity.
That's good.
Now, one of the things that I can say is this. When we were younger, I was more committed to trying to do a lot of those things, leisure time, but now my wife has become more. So it's easier for us to just be gravitated to those same things now. And we have a plethora of things that we can do together. We can play cards, we can play Uno, we can play spades, we can play Connect Four, we can play bingo, we can play Monopoly, we can play putt-putt. Go ahead.
So not just date,
horseshoe.
Not just date night. It's just whenever, wherever.
No, recreation is the focus here is leisure time activity. That's with or without sport. It doesn't mean she has to like sports.
Right.
It does mean that she's committed, watch this, to being one with him. In other words, it's not for competition, but for the completion and the comradeship or the camaraderie of the partnership. You know, the more camaraderie we have, the more pleasant the relationship becomes because we're at one. It's amazing how when you put those energies into one exercise, put them into one type of sport, one type of game or whatever, you get unified. Just say couples are playing each other a game of cards, a game of spades, you know. Probably Denise and I will probably beat everybody out there in a game of spades. And so we challenge all the couples, we'll beat you in, we will beat you in Connect Four, we will beat you in spades, we will beat you.
All the couples who said bring it on.
Bring it on.
Type down and say challenge accepted, Bishop and Lady D. Challenge accepted.
We will wear y'all out. And so the thing is, the camaraderie is what we're after here. And so that's why, again, when we talk about recreational companionship, God's goal for men is to fulfill his desire with his woman by her becoming a playmate. You know, he wants them to do each other good, to live joyfully with one another.
I want to drop in real quick because sometimes I love what you said is what you and Lady D decided to do together. It wasn't the man saying, I want to do this. Come on, you my recreational playmate. Come on, get with it. It can go the other way around. She might want to watch what's called the chick flicks that. Yeah. It's about the camaraderie, the time, that connection there. And lastly, in the military, when we were training the troops as drill sergeants or as sergeants, as platoon leaders, that was something that we had to focus on as non-commissioned officers, and that was the camaraderie amongst the people, because the better the camaraderie, the more the troops and the platoon operate like a well-oiled machine.
Camaraderie, it wets the edge. It smooths the edge. It makes it easier for the two personalities to merge.
That's good.
And that's what's good. We're not so much as competing against each other. We're complementing each other.
Right. I love that. Because I know some guys say, she don't want to do what I want to do ever. Yeah. Like, this guy goes.
Well, you got to compromise and negotiate. There it is again. Number three.
Third deepest or basic need of a man is an attractive spouse. Now,
What does 1 Corinthians 11, chapter 11, verse 7b say? Do you see that?
It says the woman is the glory of the man.
So in that the woman is the glory of the man, what it's saying is that, please listen at me, wife. The reason why we're saying here, the psychologist is pointing out that a man wants an attractive wife is because he wants his woman to maximize her own beauty. He's not asking her to be anyone else but herself. Please write that down in the comments. He's not asking you to be anybody but yourself. Now, it bothers your husband, whether he tells you or not, when you try to match or duplicate another woman, because that's not the woman he married. That's not the woman he was attracted to. Right. There is a reason why he's attracted to you, and it is not in the physicality nor the other things that you might be enamored to in other women. Those are not the intangibles that attract him. That's why he is with you. So his joy is initiated when you are comfortable in your own skin. That's what this says, as his precious pearl, in comparison to no one else but you. In other words, wives, you are the woman he chose. And when it's talking about an attractive wife, he just wants you to maximize your own beauty, because that's the beauty that got his attention. It was, listen, the songwriter said, beauty's only skin deep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the woman who becomes that man's pearl of great price, he looks beyond the physicality, even though that is attractive. That's part of it, yeah. But there's something he's more fond. Personality, it makes a big, listen, firmness, believability, conviction. All those things, they are really, really assets that a man looks for. So many times it looks like men are just kind of surfaced because we are visual creatures. But we're usually trying to find something more deeper than what is surface.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. But on the attraction part, I think that's an important point that you brought out. The man, and I was so proud of my son. My son started dating, and he's like, well, the girl looks attractive to me. That's what's mad. That's what counts. I don't care what nobody else thinks. And so the man, the husband man marrying the wife is, and this, what you're saying here is, it's the attraction that he has for you. So to compare yourself to the next female ma'am or wife, as well, I ain't got what she got. Man, you wasting your time on that. He never saw that for you when he met you. He saw you for you. Right. So once again, that word, maximize you for him and for yourself. So he will continue to be enamored by that presence when you walk in the room, when you leave the room. He know you gone, because that air, that beautiful air, divine presence is gone. He'll know. And so that's important. I think that we know that we maximize ourselves based upon who we are, not upon who someone else, another female, is trying to be in the eyes of society, or possibly even.
Yes, don't let the commercial convince you that you have to change. Keep being the woman that got his attention, and you'll be amazed at how he will stay enamored to you. Just maximize your own essence. That's all he wants.
Let's go to number 4, Bishop. Domestic support. Domestic support is the 4th thing listed as a basic deepest need of a man. Talk to us about domestic support.
Well, Proverbs chapter 17, verse 1 says, and please listen at this verse. It says, better is a dry morsel of food served with quietness and peace than a house full of sacrifices with strife. Now, you'll be amazed at how some of us are more focused on a house full of sacrifices with strife rather than having a small meal that everybody can enjoy.
Wow.
Sometimes the sacrifices or the demand for sacrifices are just too overwhelming, and they take so much of the time of the husband and wife that could have been used in commitment to the preservation of the relationship, that by the time you get to each other, you've already spent all of your emotional energy, your physicality is burnt out, and now you don't want to do nothing but rest from the stress, because life ain't nothing but a pest. The reality is, now we got to find a way to get back from that. And here, the thing that you got to understand about a husband needing domestic support is simply this. He wants someone who plans and someone who prioritizes their time. He wants someone that maintains a level of cleanness at the house. One thing, man, my wife and my mama, my sisters, my siblings, boy, just such an emphasis on cleanness, man. Cleanliness next to godliness, keeping that house clean. We know where everything is. It's got to be arranged a certain way. And every time something moves, we feel, we just
We all know it.
We know it because it's out of order.
Right.
And it's hard for us to function when it's not clean. So, you know, someone who communicates also clearly their needs for assistance with the house, with the children, and other things without contention. That is the type of domestic support we're talking about. A woman who's so grounded in herself that now when she needs her husband, she don't have to complain to the girl. She tells him what she needs from him. And she expects him to fulfill his obligation to her.
That's right.
He is supposed to be at all times the greatest, most sacrificial creature she has ever met all of her life. Apart from her father, nobody sacrifices for that woman like her husband does.
That's good.
And that's why she can look to him. And as he looks to her for domestic support, he realizes that before she allows herself to become overwhelmed, she will speak up, get his attention, and make sure he's assisting, whether it's with housework, whether it's with the children, whether it's with the schoolwork, whatever it is, he steps in and fulfills his role. Because first of all, the children came from him. They were incubated in her, and she brought them forth for them.
That's good.
They came forth from him. She incubated them in her, and when the children were brought forth, they came into being for the two of them to take care of.
That's good. You know, and I was thinking while you were talking, you know, sometimes we have to keep in mind that the woman comes in having been raised a certain way to keep things clean, to keep things a certain way. Now we have this union happening, and if there's no intentional thought or intentional action to try to merge in those areas together and become one as far as cleanliness and the things around the household to be done, then what happens is you end up frustrating that woman because, for example, part of her thing is, here we go, fellas, we know this one, keep the seat down on the toilet. Well, brother, man, ain't been practicing that all his life.
Yeah.
And a little bit he did at home with his mom if he was fortunate and blessed to have his mom there. But for the most part, he didn't just leave the seat up. She already has 10, 20, 30, 40 years of putting the seat back down and keeping it clean. Bro, you messing it up. So part of that domestic support is being able to sacrifice and die to the way of living you used to know and come alive to a whole new way that you all are going to live together.
Well, I tell the young men secretly, I said, listen, boys, and I got several grandsons, boys, if you're not going to learn how to use that commode correctly without wetting it up, sit down until you learn how to control your focus.
Sit down till you learn how to stand up.
Sit down till you learn how to stand up. Yes, sir. Because women have a hard time, they should have, entering into space that's been just contaminated in soil with things that could have been better controlled.
And I know we're gonna go to number 5, but that's just one of the things. It could be the way you hang up the spatula in the kitchen,
anything
compared to the way she hangs it up, the way she needs her kitchen kept.
Yes,
you know, and so it's just things like that we have to keep in mind. That when we start talking about domestic support, it is a team effort.
That's good,
and it starts with the man.
That's good.
Number five, basic and deepest needs of a man: admiration. Talk to us about admiration.
Well, in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33, the B part says, reverence your husband. Now, I know you've heard that before, but let me explain to you what it really means. Here, honest admiration is a tremendous motivator for men. Honest admiration. So he don't just want to be admired, he wants honest admiration. Don't just tell me I look good. Make sure I really do. Don't let me think I look good and then I go in the mirror and look and say, oh my God, she's just just getting me out the way. Don't do me like that, sweetie. But here, understand, when a man knows that you think he's wonderful, when he knows that you think he's capable, women, it's okay to let him think he's capable. When he knows, listen, I've often heard my sisters or my siblings say that my dad always said to them, never have other men do things in your house without your husband, without his consent, or without him making way for that. If it's something he can do, let him do it, especially if it's a duty that a man is responsible for. Otherwise, you're going to offend that man. And once he's offended, now you may have gotten the chore taken care of, but it's at the expense of the peace and the sanity of the relationship. So it's very important. That was wisdom, you know, because here, understand it's okay for you in admiring your husband, let him think he's capable and make him feel like he's capable, that he's doing a great job, that because it motivates him to do far more. Now, it's wise to look for ways to admire your husband and look for how he provides and, you know, how he takes care of you and how he sacrifices for you and what he sacrifices for you, how he dresses and how he cares for others. Talk to him about how his loving care for the children and namely his love for God. If you will learn how to admire him and compliment him, then you will see a release in him regarding these 5 things.
I love that. You know, one of the things you teach, Bishop, here at Crown Kingdom Cultural Center is that honor is an extractor. It extracts out of the person you're bringing honor to things that you wouldn't have able to get yourself in your normal state of mind. By that meaning, without the honor, it'd been harder for you to get the favor or the exception or the prominence of thought in someone's mind that comes because they remember, man, she blessed my soul with that, man. Let me go ahead and look out for her right now. I'm at the store. I know she said she didn't want nothing. Watch this. I'm gonna get her something anyway because I know she loved this. I'm gonna bring it home because she gonna want some. She ain't eating them. She ain't putting her fingers in my chicken box. But I'm get her own chicken box. Although she said she didn't want one. But no, seriously, admiration is vitally important. Deal. It's so important. It really releases that man to be free. And honestly, it empowers him.
Yes.
And man, I tell you, the quickest way to put an S on your husband's chest is to bring him honor.
That's well said. Bring him honor. Bring him honor. Admiration will make him feel like your Superman.
That's it. And I don't care if he's still acting like Clark Kent. You better speak that thing till you see it.
I like that.
Baby, you just so wonderful. You amazing. I'm trying to help you. Ladies, I'm trying to drop a little quick nugget. If you do that, Clark Kent would change to Superman. And it doesn't matter what you see him not doing. Speak to what you see him doing by faith that you need him to do, and he'll do it. And I don't mean the nagging part. I just mean, hey, babe, I'm so glad you're an awesome husband. You take care of the needs of the home. Baby, you okay? You hungry? You know, and let him know. And he's thinking, watch this, because he'll check himself if he ain't doing like.
He'll check himself.
Call me awesome. I ain't take the trash out yet. Yeah, babe, I'm hungry. I'm going to go ahead and take the trash out real quick, okay?
There you go.
Brother man moving now. He said, man, I got to keep that ass on. Brother man feel good. So
see, a lot of these things diffuse contention and strife.
Right.
Where there's strife, there's every evil work. So we got to learn how to be at peace in our home.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are things to diffuse the bomb or any potentiality for anything blowing up in our lives. So that's number 5 was admiration for the men. That's the 5 basic and deepest needs of a man. Now we're gonna go next to the 5 basic and deepest needs of a woman in this order, starting with number 1 being, drum roll please.
Yeah, now you think I do need the drum roll. Women, let me appeal to your heart for a moment.
This is a disclaimer.
Yes, because it's very important you realize that when the psychologists were putting this list of 5 deeper needs together, like myself, one of the things I do after each of the sessions, and I've done hundreds of marital sessions, I do a great deal of counsel sessions all the time. One of the things I do is I sit down and I do this assessment with myself, and I extract from each assessment things that I thought would have been more practical for that particular relationship to work. What he could have done, what she could have done, what they can do better in order to make themselves a single unit in their striving and in their functionality. So in the assessment, it was not where they were going around in these thousands of couples. They were just giving them a list. Say, you tell me what your number 1 is. Tell me what your, no. They used the term psychologist. They were studying the individual and how they react, responds, are stimulated from the stimuli, how they are agitated, how they are motivated. All of these things came into play. So when they said the man's number 1 is probably sexual fulfillment, then the woman's was affection. Now watch this, how it interplays with the word of God. See, because many psychologists say that because of the way a woman is wired, it's because of how she is wired. Not talking about on the surface now before you really get in the relationship, because today's woman feels like, to some degree, I need the money first. Show me the bag. I need the bag. If he ain't got the bag, I'm going to lag, so I need the bag. The reality is, even with the bag, if you don't develop some marital skills, then the bag will not be enough to save you the relationship. So you got to understand something here. Many psychologists are saying that because of the way the woman is wired, the one thing a woman cannot do without is affection. Affection, he said, is the cement of a relationship because to her, it symbolizes three major things. It symbolizes security to her, comfort, and approval. So she gets her security from a man's affection towards her. She knows whether she is safe or not, because in many cases, if that man is not affectionate, she develops a sense of distrust and dis-ease. She's not satisfied. She's not certain that she can relax at home nor relax in her relationship. But the security comes from the affection. Then the comfort. She's to the point now where she just simply says, okay, if he says he's got it, he's got it. I don't worry about it because bruh man has it under control. Last but not least, she gets approval. Now, this is called the buy-in, the law of the buy-in. When he's very affectionate with her consistently, she buys into him. And now, because of what he's selling, she's buying. And because of what she's buying, she's getting a chance to experience the freedom of being married to this particular man.
Wow.
That's what the goal is here. See, when a husband shows affection to his wife, he is sending a powerful message to her. That message is, honey, I care for you. First. Second, it means I'll take care of you. Second. Third, I'll protect you. I'm concerned for your needs, honey. I approve of you and I am proud of you. Let nothing outside of this house disturb your mentality, your psychology, your feeling about yourself, because I am proud of you. Honey, you are my...
Go ahead, you gonna say the song, but
Don't you mess with me up here.
So the affection,
Now,
number one is affection.
Yeah, see, because let's go back to something you said as a lead-in. Please write this down. Honor extracts virtue from her. But constant affections affirms a man's value of her. Please get that. That's something the Holy Spirit gave me when I was a young man.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes, sir. He said, honor extracts virtue from her. What is virtue? All the things I have packed in your wife, if you honor her as the weaker vessel. Notice he said honor. If you honor her as the weaker vessel, you will extract from her all of those virtues. If she's a cook, if a cook is in there, it's coming out. If she's a cleaner, it's coming out. If she's a groomer, it's coming out. If she has good consultation skills and advice, it's coming out. If she's good with her hands, it's coming out. Tapestry, and notice all the things that the Proverbs 31 does. That man was taught by his mother how to extract from her all the qualities that God had compressed in her. She houses an innate ability to do all of these things because she's a malleable creature. And so when he honors her as the weaker vessel, he extracts all of these virtues from her. But when he gives her constant affection, he affirms how much he values her. Now, this is release for the woman. Why? Because together, these two things combine to relieve her mentally and emotionally. And when a woman is relieved mentally and emotionally, she's ready to light your fire sexually. Now, this is why it's important. Go ahead.
I just want to say to the young brothers out there, even some of the older brothers, not the same type of affection, but the energy you have when you don't want anybody to step on in your shoes because you're affectionate about your shoes, that energy. Yeah. The energy you have when you got to wash your car not once but twice a week and wax it once a month, that energy. The energy you have when nobody can touch your man cave, don't move my stuff, that energy. That's the kind of affection she wants. She wants to know that I'm secure, I'm stable, my man is here, he got me, he loves everything about me, he loves what I say, what I smell like, what I look like, he loves me, and he's here for me. That's important because if a woman is an incubator, affection is how you cut the incubator on. Wow. It's like she can't cook nothing and incubate nothing if she don't feel that affection.
Well, the man is the initiator. The woman is the incubator. If he don't initiate properly, there will be nothing to incubate.
So we're right back there again.
We're right back there. So notice in the sexual conversation, sexual fulfillment for the man, there were 4 C's. In this section, the affection of woman, there are 3 S's. There's the there's the S of being sensitive. If a man is sensitive to his wife, that's what she needs. She needs him to be sensitive. No, you don't know how I feel. Your wife will ask you, didn't you hear me say I had a headache? How many times do I got to say it?
Right.
Haven't you seen me moving slow? Don't you know that's not my normal operation? Right. She's really checking the man to see how sensitive he is to the exchanges of her day, of her functionality. She's checking him out to see if he's paying attention, if he is, that's why God said, listen, study her.
Right.
Yeah. Dwell with her according to knowledge. So she moves in a lot of ways just to see if he's paying attention to her, if what she's doing different is making a difference. So be sensitive. And now sensitivity opens the doorway for sensuality. When a man really touches a woman's truest sensitivities, it frees her, like it frees the man to eventually communicate in the end. Now she's free to start thinking sensual. It's more than just, what is he doing that for? Why are you doing that now?
It becomes, I love this.
It becomes, man, keep on doing what you're doing.
Sexy taking out the trash.
If you're going to keep doing this for me, then maybe.
Thanks for washing my, you wash my hair. I'm telling you something, wash your wife's hair.
Yes.
Boy, brother.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you out. He's a good nugget right now. Just offer him, hey, baby, let me wash your hair for you. Soap and scrubbing.
So Elgin, we move
from. Let me be quiet, right, bitch?
No, we move from sensitive to sensual and from sensual to now sexual.
Sensitive?
Now, yes.
Sensual.
Sensitive to sensual. Yeah. So when we're sensual, we're affectionate. We're embracing each other. The man has to wisely get to a point where he's not trying to seem demanding or anything else. Let her feel the need to initiate. I know you're hungry. I know you're craving. I know you're passionate. I know you're lustful. But let her light the fire. Because what you're doing is being sensitive to her personhood, making sure that you can lighten her load. Listen, why don't you take the laundry this time and put it in the washer? Why don't you make sure, not only we talk about the trash, etc., make sure that the dishes are washed. Not that it's her chore, but make sure the bed, you got out of the same bed, make sure the bed is nice and neatly arranged and put back together. Make sure the pillows are fluffed and everything looks good so that if neighbors come by, they'll say, boy, you keep a nice clean house. But this time it won't be because of her efforts, it'll be because of yours. That's how you're sensitive to her, making sure. And also with the children, she don't have to raise her voice because you've already made sure that they're quiet, that they're doing things orderly, that they're not they don't have the house in disarray. Every time she cleans up, they mess up. No. You got to stop that. So be sensitive, and she'll be sensual, and then eventually sexuality will come. Now here's what Ephesians 5:28 says. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. Now I've been asked the question, what if he don't? Don't marry a man that don't love his body. If he don't prove to you in your dating that he does not love his body, he will not prove to be someone that loves you.
That's it.
He says the man that's going to really cherish you is a man that loves his own body. So watch us to see whether we invest in ourselves or not, because if we don't invest in ourselves, I'm talking about being clean, investing in our mind, how we think, making sure we read, we're exposed to wisdom. A wise man will hear and increase learning. A man of understanding attains. He fastens himself to those wiser than himself. He hangs around people that can give him some insights that he doesn't have readily for his household. And so these are things, if he takes care of his body, he will be good at taking care of you. That's why when God put the man in the woman's life, he'd already taken him first to the garden to make sure he knew how to cultivate his field and make it better.
Well, we got about 10 more minutes left here. So when we get to other four, I want to say real quick before we move on, honor as the weaker vessel. You mentioned that scripture earlier, 1 Peter 3:7, just for a disclaimer. It does not say, men, that she is the weaker vessel.
Right.
As the weaker vessel.
And that verse
I'm going to make some French fries tonight.
Go ahead.
As Burger King makes them. Ain't going to be Burger King fries, but I'm going to do what I can and treat them like they're Burger King fries. I'm going to cook them that same way. I'm going to flame broil my burgers as Burger King does it. So I'm going to treat it that way because that's how I'm honoring my food tonight. So you honor your wife that way. Doesn't mean she's the weaker vessel, because a lot of times men say, you the weaker vessel, so no, that's not what it says there.
No, actually, there are some documented accounts where women have lifted cars off of their children.
Yep.
It's been a proven scientific fact that women can endure a concentration camp better than men. So
You were telling me about that.
you
Yeah.
honor her as the weaker vessel. Don't treat her like she's weaker. You might find out
Right.
that sister girl ain't as weak as you.
I didn't say, don't trip.
Now, I didn't get into it Sunday, but there's a part of my lesson that deals with the abuse factor that occurs throughout the world where men are concerned every day at the hands of women. So you got to be careful. There's a lot of women that's abusing men, both orally and physically and emotionally, just like men abuse women. There's a lot of women doing the same thing to men.
Amen. We'll come back and tell a couple more stories later.
we'll
We'll
do it
move
later.
on. So number one, basic and deepest need for a woman is going to be affection. Number two, conversation. Talk to us about conversation.
Would you read Philippians chapter 2 and verse 2 for me, please?
Philippians chapter 2, verse 2 says, fulfill ye my joy, that you may be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind.
Okay. Now, here's what he's really trying to get you to see. Now, first of all, let me identify this prominent fact. It's been scientifically stated that the average woman uses approximately 25,000 words a day. The average man uses approximately 12,500. Now, that may be a little bit comedic, but on another note, that simply means by the time the average male gets home from work, he's done used up all of his words, and the wife still has 12,500 words left.
Just getting warmed up.
She's just getting warmed up, and brother is now cold and really tired of hearing. So the man has to make an adjustment because the woman needs conversation.
Wow.
See, a man needs to have fellowship with his wife in order to live together in harmony, in love, and to develop what God calls a one-mindedness and one spirit. The only way to accomplish this is by communicating with continuity. So please write that down. A man has to come home because the woman needs communication. He has to learn how to communicate with continuity. Now, here's what that means. Since you come home and you're out of words and she still has 12,500, sit down and negotiate. Make sure that there are days when you get a chance to really get a little bit more mental space than you do on other days, other times, depending upon the nature of your work.
That's good.
And the strength of your psychology or your emotions. So it's very important that you get familiar with your own personal capacity.
That's good.
So that when you go home, she's going to make sure the children reverence you and respect your time and your space and give you what you need. Likewise, man, the way that God taught me to get from my wife was to give to my wife. All the things that you would have your wife do unto you, do first unto her. So show her that you're willing to cook for her if you want her to cook for you. Show her that you're willing to take care of your children if you want her to take care of y'all's children. Show her that you're willing to,
That's right.
Yeah, to do all the things around the house that you want her to do. And then learn how to negotiate. You really don't know how much time and energy it takes unless you participate yourself. The easiest thing in life to do is tell somebody else to serve you. Here, God is asking you to be the greatest, most sacrificial servant in the house. So it's imperative here that you write this down again, women and men. Communicate with continuity. Establish a rhythm of communication because rhythm is the keepsake of relationship. Yeah, write that down. Rhythm is the keepsake of relationship. Where communication is concerned, rhythm is the keepsake of communication. And I know one of you want to communicate and the other don't, or one wants to communicate more than the other or less than the other, but you got to have continuity so that you can have clarity of vision, one-mindedness, one spirit. You will never develop the bridge to unity without communicating. Communicating first is the offspring of the term commune. You got to learn how to commune with each other. Remember, I gave you 4 things that you got to read about each other. You got to read each other's what? You remember? Spirit. You got to read each other's emotion. You got to read each other's
conversation was one, right?
Posture.
And the way
physicality.
Physicality.
Yeah. So stop just reading the body language and read their spirit, read their emotions, read their posture. That's very important.
See, y'all get quizzed. I get quizzed all the time.
Community. Huh?
I get quizzed all the
You
time.
get quizzed, yeah,
They
you
get
get quizzed a lot.
I'll be getting quizzed all the time.
We better hurry up and go to number 3.
Let's move on. We got about 5 more minutes left. We want to try to cover these. Number 3 is going to be the 5 basic and deepest needs of a woman. It's going to be honesty and Openness.
Now, I've heard a lot of women say on Sunday, that wouldn't have been one of mine. Well, Proverbs chapter 26, verse 28 says, a lying tongue hated those that are afflicted by it, and a flattering mouth worketh ruin. Do you realize that statistics say most men are afraid to be open with their wives? Now, hear what I'm about to reveal. This is mainly because men are afraid of their feelings being exposed, and especially afraid to share their fears because they have been taught this historically, thinking she might see them as weak. Oh, you weak. Well, history has taught men that that is not manly. This reluctance prevents the relationship from becoming more intimate. So this is why you got to be willing to help him become more intimate by allowing him to feel the freedom to share with you. On another note, men, you gotta stop fighting the fear of failure, the fear of success. I don't have the time to really go into this like I want to, so I'm rushing through it. But men constantly fight the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear they won't be a provider, the fear that they won't be a good spiritual leader. They fight so many fears. That's why we put up a facade, and it makes it difficult for women to penetrate us. And she thinks sometimes it's against her, but no, it's really against the relationship becoming more intimate because he is insecure by his internal fears. So he has to be taught how to release himself and relieve himself of his fears if he's going to be a very intimate spouse. This is a very critical point because the things you fear most about your relationship and about yourself and your capacity to make it in life are important insights that your wife needs to be exposed to. Last thing on this, the devil knows that rather than making her think less of you, she will become more supportive of you because you let her into your inner court.
That sounds like number 5 men, admiration.
Well, they tie in together. They eventually tie in. That's why the psychologist was saying, if we can get the people to give each other these 10, they're going to find themselves
kind of blink,
like a hand inside of a glove. Yes, and the two will be one.
It creates a type of synergy for the relationship.
That's what it does. That it brings the balance that we're so desperately in need of.
Okay. So we're down to number 4, financial security.
The one that everybody thought should be number one in today's society. Number one. You know, yesterday, the women of old needed finances, but they preferred to be respected, admired, given affection. Right. Today's woman, because of the commercial reality that is put before us on television so frequent, they think that they need the bag first. Listen, financial security and support is important. Here's what God says in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8. But if any man does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Now, y'all going to have to let me come back and deal with this because, again, Proverbs 12:9 says that he that is despised and have a servant is better than he that honors himself and lacks bread. So a man walking around puffed up, proud, like he got it going on with a bag of chips, but don't have anything to show for his presence at home is a man that just making noise but ain't saying nothing.
Full of hot air.
There you go. So the woman needs financial security and she needs support. He wants to rant and rave about heard this, heard that, heard this, but bring me some financial security and some financial stability. The reality is, again here, clearly, it is a man's responsibility to provide for his home and to protect it. Now, here's the question I want to ask, and we'll close with this, because the question, Elgin, is, what would it take for my wife and my children to live comfortably without me for the rest of their lives? That's the question my father put before me. He said, son, you need to be, you out there spending all your money, carrying all that every time you see something, you got to have it. You need to be thinking, what would it take for Denise and those children to live the same lifestyle that you have brought them to if something happened to you tomorrow.
And that's a paradigm shift compared to what we've been taught.
There you go. See that now? So the reason why, see, the psychologists didn't leave it out.
Right.
They put it there because now they wanted the man to see that your commitment to financial support and security is what now brings in the family commitment, number 5.
Number 5, family commitment.
Commitment. Be faithful to your wife. Share parenting responsibility with your wife. Take the initiative in the home and be the spiritual leader in sacrifices and love. See, the woman should not be the one that's doing all the sacrificing at home.
Amen.
The man has to become the most sacrificial entity in the house in order for it to work. And again, God is expecting him to be the sower and her to be the reaper. And then because she's the reaper of what was sown, she harvests. Now, the harvest is always bigger than the seed. You see that? The seed meets the need because the harvest is bigger than the seed. If you sow into her, you will grow from her much more than you gave to her. And that's why he's trying to get the man to understand. You don't have to worry about her part. Just do yours. We're over 2 minutes over now. We're going to cut off right here. But I'm telling you, you want to catch the remaining portion of this discussion tomorrow night. Yeah. I'm giving you into the hands of Elgin. I'm out of here. God bless you. Listen, you want to catch this tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. I'm telling you, be here because God got something to say to these relationships. Praise the Lord.
Amen. With that being said, you can go ahead and go to www.fbjm.org if you want to sow a seed into this ministry. As we open up, we told you we're a little bit behind. We worked some technological stuff that we're working out. We're okay, but it sure would be great to get some seed from you guys to help us out a little bit so we can keep investing into what we're doing and really expand and expound on our presentation to you all so you guys are blessed, not just in word, but in visual presentation as well. That's what we want to do for you. We're working on that very feverishly. With that being said, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Oh, by the way, if you want to sow into the man of God, go to, what's your cash app, Bishop? I forget. $ Finest Bush Jr. That's FINACEBUSHJR. Go ahead and sow into the man of God and be a blessing to him. I would appreciate it. He would appreciate it. He didn't ask me to do this. I'm doing it because I know it would be a blessing to him. Listen, we love you all. We got to go. We did our executive producer. We were 3.5 minutes over. We are out.